So every year I tell you who I think won as far as the E3 press conferences between Sony and Microsoft. And we're not even talking about Nintendo because theirs totally blew. But keep in mind, we are only talking about the press conferences. We're not talking about all the other announcements that happened throughout the week. I do apologize that this video is a little late, but I actually went back and viewed both conferences again because I wanted to make sure that I didn't forget anything or leave anything out. So let's jump right into it. We'll start with Sony and their press conference. Sony started out the night with gameplay for The Last Guardian, a game that they showed off at E3 like almost 8 years ago. And there were rumors right before E3 that the game was finally going to be shown again, and so those rumors were correct. But I have to ask you, whenever you watch this gameplay, did it seem like a game worth waiting almost a decade on? Was it worth the wait? And, I mean, I gotta tell you, for me personally, it just didn't scream blockbuster AAA title to me. I don't know what it was. I mean, I went back and I watched the PS3 version of the trailer. I didn't think the graphics looked that much different, and I still really didn't grasp what the hell was going on anyway, other than a kid obnoxiously yelling the same 5 words over and over at his dog with feathers. But for me, I'm just not sure that it was worth almost a decade of waiting on this game. We still don't have a release date, so who knows how much longer it's going to be before you're actually getting to play it. But I want to know if it seemed like it was worth the wait for you. The next big game that they showed off was Horizon Zero Dawn. I thought this was probably the best showing during the entire Sony conference as far as new games are concerned, because really it was the only AAA exclusive that I hadn't heard of before that Sony has coming out. And it looked pretty damn cool too, with mech dinosaurs. Don't really understand mech dinosaurs, but I did like fighting mech dinos in Far Cry Blood Dragon, so I'll be happy to do it again. And this one coming from Guerrilla Games, so it definitely looked like a good game that I would want to play. Definitely gained my interest there. They also showed off more gameplay for No Man's Sky. There's no doubt that this game is going to be tremendous as far as the scale of it. They zoomed way back. You could see all these different planets that they say people probably will never even explore. But the more that I see, honestly, the less I'm impressed, because they went down to the world and it was pretty bland and empty, and the gun physics even didn't look that great. We also are learning that that game is going to be released simultaneously on PC and PS4 at the same time, so whatever day that is, which we still don't have a release date, which I think is a little strange, but whenever that date does arrive, it is going to be launching on both of those platforms at the same exact time. The two biggest announcements as far as the media seem to be concerned, and a lot of the fans also, was one, a remake for Final Fantasy VII, which they said would be coming to PS4 first, which means that it's not an exclusive, but good for fans there who's been wanting a remake of that game. And then Shenmue 3, which I saw a lot of people said they shed tears over, but I'm not sure if they didn't realize it or not. But they were launching a Kickstarter there at the E3 press conference. There is no game that has been built. There's no game, as far as I can tell, that's even currently in development. So they were just wanting you to pitch in and donate some money in order to get this game going. And so they did end up exceeding their goals within a short amount of time. But, I mean, was I the only one that thought it was a little weird to have a Kickstarter launched on stage from Sony? Because why couldn't they just fund it, you know? And apparently they are backing it. There were reports that I've got up on VGN that said Sony is investing in this game in order to help get it made. But it's a little strange too that they're asking for donations in order to do that, to get it started. And it looks like they could have, you know, invested it if they wouldn't have invested so much in all the third-party games that they showed off, because they did show off a ton of third-party content at the Sony press conference. And they announced that Call of Duty, the new home for Call of Duty, is now on PlayStation. So they showed off Call of Duty, more Destiny, Assassin's Creed, you had Hitman and Batman, and all of those have like exclusive like little DLC packs or missions or whatever else. But all those games also are going to be coming out to Xbox. So a lot of their conference was showing multi-platforms. And they did throw in some media talk and some talk about the PlayStation View and all that. But the conference did end up with a bang at the very end with Uncharted 4, which I thought looked like a lot of fun. So definitely interested in that. But overall, I told you before E3 started, I wanted to see new AAA exclusive IPs from Sony. And I walked away only thinking about one during the entire conference, and that was Horizon. Moving on to Microsoft, you had the usual suspects show up as far as the games were concerned, and we already knew that a lot of these games were being shown. You had Halo 5, you had Forza 6, Fable Legends, we got to see Gears of War 4, we also got Gears of War Ultimate Edition that was announced, and we got to see some gameplay of Tomb Raider. We also saw teasers for a couple of brand new IPs, which I was glad to see some new IPs coming out. You had Recode, which I hope we see more gameplay of pretty soon, because apparently that game is going to be coming out fairly early in 2016, so we should be hearing more about that pretty soon. And then we also got a look at Rare's new game, which appears to be like an MMO called Sea of Thieves, which I thought looked really cool, so I'm hoping to hear more about that. Now, the one thing that Microsoft, kept on saying and repeating throughout the conference was exclusive. So while Sony, they delivered some exclusive games definitely during their thing, it was Microsoft that was really hounding that home, that these are games that you can only play on Xbox, and a lot of those games that you were shown are going to be coming this year, and the ones that didn't, they actually did have release dates, or at least release date windows. And that was missing from a lot of those Sony games. And it was a pretty strong showing, I thought, as far as games, considering that they didn't even bother bringing up Quantum Break or Crackdown or Scalebound. And so they did say at the end of the conference that this is only a fraction of what they have coming, and that they got more announcements coming up in the next few weeks, especially at Gamescom. I think their biggest announcement of the conference was definitely the fact that Xbox One is now backwards compatible with Xbox 360 games. And I did a video on that subject, so you can go watch that if you want to learn more about how that's going to work. But I do think it was a solid move to try to win over a lot of those 360 players who haven't made the jump yet to the Xbox One. They also announced an early access program to games that sort of like they do on the PC. And, I mean, you have to be really careful with early access games on the PC, because a lot of those games never seem to make it out of development. It's like they grab your money and then, oh, well, we're going to move on to a new project, or it just sits there. But one thing that Xbox is making early access devs do that I think will help a little bit is, before you buy into the game, you can actually download a trial of that game. So for instance, right now you can go download a demo of Elite Dangerous and go play it, and then decide if that's a game that, as far as it is right now in development, do you want to help support finish this game? And then you also get to test out, what kind of state it's actually in, because some of those games are, pretty much unplayable whenever they first come out. They also announced an Elite controller for Xbox that I plan on doing another video on a bit later. It's definitely for the hardcore of gamers if you're just going by price tag, because it's going to run you $150, which is steep. And also, they ended the show with a pretty insane demo, I thought, of Minecraft on HoloLens, which, I mean, is cool, but HoloLens is a device in and of itself. So they used up stage time right there to talk about another Microsoft product, but Minecraft was pretty crazy. It was a wicked demo showing two players in the same game, and you could watch one of your friends in the world and help manipulate that environment. So it was definitely cool, but not a whole lot to do with Xbox from everything that we've been told so far. But overall, it just felt like Microsoft's conference was packed more full of content. Sony showed a lot of games, but they showed a lot of multi-platform games. Microsoft focused on exclusives as well as games that are coming this year, and new features for owners. So for me, I didn't even think it was close. Between Sony and Microsoft, I felt Microsoft had the better conference. And we also put up a new poll on VGN a few hours ago, and it seems like the readers are also thinking the same way. So post below, let me know what your favorite announcements were from E3 press conferences. What surprises did you find? And who do you think won between Sony and Microsoft? Because this is just my opinion, so let me hear yours. That does it for me, The Red Dragon. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Are you listening? Damn.